Good morning to you. Welcome, and a story regarding electric vehicles. This article is very sort of, I don't know. Well, you have a look and you'll see, but this is all about the fact that disabled drivers on the Motability scheme, which obviously they're referring to as pay as funded, and exchange for disability benefit money, which is that's the only part that's true, is being quite serious now, because the obvious lack of accessible charging, and this has been highlighted by many people, including myself. The fact is that the average disabled person who possibly has a car and they need to have a wheelchair or a scooter or some other method of getting around, they cannot physically manage to charge their cars, even if they can find somewhere. It's already been highlighted by people like Matt Meister and the other guy. Jeff buys cars. I did a video about it the other week, so you can go and have a look at that. The disability campaigners are up in arms regarding this. The point is that they are still pushing EVs when they are not appropriate. And we know that because Motability themselves told me if I want a car that is help funded by them, obviously the charity part of it, paying for the deposit for the car, they will need to have their choice of vehicle, and unfortunately their choice of vehicle is EV. And I don't want one. Pure and simple. I do not want one. There is a choice there. And they are still making, obviously, because I have a petrol car, they are still making them. And even the car makers are up in arms about the EVs because they're not selling. People just do not want them. And the infrastructure is not there. Why on earth would somebody want to go into a supermarket car park and sit there for half an hour to an hour, or however long it takes, when they want their car charged up? Beyond a joke. Anyway, we're going to have a look at this story. This is in iPaper, one of these so-called impartial news stories, MSN. The title of the headline: Disabled drivers send back taxpayer-funded EVs because they can't charge them. Disabled people are being left behind in the transition. I would say that they are very lucky to be left behind, because EVs are not the way to go. Lack of accessible charging is so serious that EVs are being handed back to taxpayer-funded scheme, a Motability scheme, by the way, that leases out new cars to claimants. Unsuitable public charging points, which have already been highlighted. The executive of Disabled Motoring UK, Graham Footer, said the problem was holding back the UK's transition. Members of the campaign group have returned EVs to Motability operations, which obviously the company is profit-making company, leases cars in exchange for PIP payments. Campaigner does not blame Motability. Well, I do. I blame them because they're pushing EVs, nothing else. But whoever is running the public infrastructure and installing charging points, it's not Motability's fault, but there is a major problem with public charging. I've raised this issue in the House of Lords more than a year ago, but said that little has changed. There are obviously calls for the Labour government to mandate accessibility, which between you and me, I don't think is going to ever happen, not with their current persecution of disabled people. Why would they bother? The Motability scheme has tried very hard to move people, EVs, by offering to install home charging stations for free. 40% of disabled people do not live in buildings which will allow home charging points. Many disabled drivers also have dexterity and strength problems, meaning that they struggle to lift the heavy cables at public charging stations. Holding back net zero, holding back a fallacy. It's probably all a good thing because it's not real. No. Drivers have complained about long queues and out-of-order charges. Last week, the government announced it's cutting planning application paperwork in a bid to speed up the rollout of charging points. The charitable side of Motability, the Motability Foundation, worked with the BSI to create a design standard for fully accessible EV charging, and that was in 2022, so 3 years ago. Has it happened? No. The idea is that you would have drop curbs, sufficient space, and making display units usable for visually or cognitively impaired people. But it's not mandatory, obviously. So not a single EV point in the UK meets the standard for being fully accessible. You'll never get told that by Motability when you're ordering a car and they're saying to you, you need to have an EV. Around 70,000 of the 815,000 users have moved to EVs by the end of last year. It has invested a large amount of money to adopt EVs and spent £265 million on free home charging points. I think really this is all about Motability and how they are very woke organisation pushing the agenda of EVs onto disabled people who then suddenly find out that they can't charge their cars because they're not accessible. Spokesperson for Motability Operations said the company was working hard with the motoring sector. Interesting. That is the story. Basically, people are being conned into getting an EV and then find out that you cannot do everything with it. And when they would have been quite happy with a petrol or a diesel, as I am. And unfortunately, some people who rely on financial help because of the huge advance payments that you have to pay out, they're being forced to get EVs because that is the only choice that they can have. There is no choice. Until they change that, then this is going to carry on happening. And if anybody is out there thinking, an able-bodied person thinking that when they say want the government to change the rules around EVs and charging points and making them fully accessible, we all know that Labour are not going to do that. Anyway, have a good day. I'm going to leave it there. And I'll come back very soon with another story. Have a good day. Just a quickie to remind you that if you want some help or advice or guidance, then come over to talkinreally.co.uk and then go on to click Book Me. Book Me button here with the idea here. You can read about this and what I can do and how I can help you. The new booking system using Pick Time. You choose your appropriate section, choose the length of time that you need, and then obviously complete the PayPal. The meeting is conducted via Gypsy, which is downloadable or using it on your browser. You can have a 30-minute or a 60-minute meeting depending on your needs, and of course it's a cheaper rate for members who are paying a Patreon or YouTube membership.